Okay, making sure that I'm not muted or anything like that. The dog is also making sure I'm not muted. So I don't see who all is in the chat room unless you actually say something. So those of you all who are watching, feel free to pop your name in the chat room so that I know who's watching. And I'm doing this one without somebody to play off and without any notes either. So I'm just going to sort of think up stuff, and then if the chat room has things to suggest, that'd be great. Hey, Wonky. So I guess first, North Texas Con was a wonderful con. Saw a lot of people. On Sunday, which is going to be kind of a tradition. Hey, Chuck. So on Sunday, which is going to be kind of a tradition, I ran a patrons only or patrons and veterans game on the Sunday morning, and so I'll continue doing that in the future for people who are at cons that I'm going to be at. I'm probably not going to Gary Con this year. I am being forced by the frogs to go to ReaperCon this year, so I'll be there, and I may also end up going to TotalCon as well. So that's the sort of the con schedule, and of course I'll be at Gamehole Con. Hey, Doug. So that's where and abouts we're going to be. I'm surprised that Alberta is not here. They must be doing something because normally she's on the thing. Patron games, I have sent out an invitation to the top 5 people on the dollar list, and then I'll probably the next one down. I think it becomes a tie below that area, so I'll probably grab a few people. Maybe Chuck, you'll have a chance to start a character who's not going to fall into lava. Or Douglas, you can run a character that hopefully won't get pushed into lava by another member of the party. So we'll be doing those. I think the second patron game I'm probably going to shoot for Tuesday the 25th. The first one is going to be Sunday the 23rd, and so that one is I've already heard back from Doug that he's going to be in that one, and so that's the setup on the patron games. And then today obviously is this month's live stream, so this is kind of the update on what's been going on over the past month thereabouts, and some of it has been not really patron stuff. I've been doing the City of the Hobgoblin King Kickstarter. I've been doing the fulfillment on that and reminding myself how much I hate the drive-through RPG interface, because everything's set with a default for a PDF. So when you're trying to load a zip file in there's a whole bunch of places where you can screw it up. The other stuff I've been working on. Okay, so I have distributed the Atlas of Secrets, which is the real DMG for Jordiba, to everybody. It does not have monsters in there because that way I could keep it at this. This one particular book is for both Swords and Wizardry and 5th edition. Then I'm going to do separate monster books. So that's one of the targets coming out for next month. And in fact, I need to write that down. So let's write down monster books. I have also got uploaded and haven't sent out links to the city encounter tables, which have been out of print for about 10 years now at this point. And a lot of people have asked about seeing that again. And the reason it hasn't come out is because at various times I've been working at it to make it more descriptive and more modern, so that it could be sold through one of the traditional channels. But I think for the time being, I'm going to keep it the way it is, which is based on the city-state of the Invincible Overlord sort of approach, which is very, very short on that sort of thing. And so I'm going to let that out. I'm still sort of deciding whether what I ought to do is send that to you guys as patrons, which I think is where I'm going to go ahead and do that next month. Send it out to patrons, and sell it at the same time. But you guys will get it for free. Hey, Alberta, I was just saying, where's Alberta? They must be doing something. Okay, so I was just giving sort of the rundown. First off, on the fact that I did a patron game at the convention, and that I'm going to keep doing that, and then the patron games. Those will be Sunday mornings at most cons. I'm probably not going to GaryCon. I am going to ReaperCon. I may go to TotalCon. I'll be at Gamehole Con. I'll be at the next North Texas, obviously. Hey, James. Okay, so we've got most of the usual suspects here. That's good. Okay, so there's the recap on for Alberta on what all we did. Now, so a couple of things that would be cool is I would like to get some places that you find in slums that would be good kind of adventure locations. And also, I'm working on a short. Okay, Doug's got the Mithras Tower slots at GaryCon. Excellent. Yeah, I'm on at Gamehole Con. I think that Bill is calling his Mithras Tower, and I'm calling mine Catacombs of Jordiba. So, and we're describing the disorganized play thing on there as well, Doug. So I'll try and get you my description of the disorganized play thing as well, if you want to pop it in your game descriptions. One of the things I've been working on, not a whole lot. We worked on the schedule for Frog God Games extensively, and if you guys are interested in the schedule for Frog God Games, first of all, it's a wreckage. These are my notes from talking with Zach and Edwin, but we're not sure when the Humble Bundles are going to fall. We've got one that's a 5th edition Humble Bundle coming up toward the end of this month, I think, but obviously that's of less interest to the Swords and Wizardry people. Next Indiegogo is going to be for the deck of Dirty Tricks, and then we're going to do Grimsgate, but I think that's just for sort of a limited print run on those. So I think probably most people already have Grimsgate. Alberta is saying boxer shorts with popular author pictures, and we're not going to do that with me. I had a great quote from one of the guys. A couple of the people from Humble Bundle were visiting the convention, and they went to the midnight auction. And one of their comments was, "Wow, you guys are a wild tribe," which I love. We're a wild tribe. Yeah, wonky art is Keelan. That's what you get for having such a catchy internet name, Keelan, as everyone remembers wonky art. Okay, so that's that. Financially, we did okay. Last month we brought in, I think it was about $450, and then I spent about $495 on getting the Atlas of Secrets laid out. And I'm not sure if I've completely abandoned the whole comic book look, but there's just a real difficulty with legibility with anything that looks comic book, and the art is relatively expensive. Doing those photographs, it's just when you print them out, they just don't come across as well as they look like on screen. So they're still sort of waiting to see what the look and feel of this stuff is going to be. I made a sort of a map of the different stuff that we've got going on at the sort of RPG studio level. What we're talking about doing, and I think I touched on this a little bit last time, is we're going to try and make the Patreon site into the central hub for a community that'll have it'll have a little forum on there so that people can talk. Well, really, the forum is going to be their store documents. So, for example, if Doug wants to announce that he's going to be doing a disorganized play at a convention, he'll be able to pop something up on the forum. That's the way for having things hang there for a little bit. And then there'll be a Discord site where if people want to get together and chat, including me, we can get together in Discord and just talk where everyone's talking. We're not we don't have the pretty picture of me, but we don't have to rely on the typing in the chat room for people to talk back and forth. So that'll just be sort of a different avenue on things. And It's also going to be connected to what's called a world anvil for Jordiba, which is an interactive map. Basically, there you can sort of store information about places on the map. It'll be and then there'll be other buttons. If people probably put up a hat, so people can buy a hat. Then a button to drive through RPG. But that's the main stuff, is the forum and the Discord. And that, I think, is I talked also with John Barnhouse about organizing the channel, which is probably not of huge interest, but we're thinking it'll probably have 2 sections, each of which is a playlist, one of which is the is Uncle Matt's D&D neighborhood, and the other one is making D&D stuff with Uncle Matt, which really makes me sound pretty juvenile when you look at both of those 2 titles, but there you go. So James, you liked the Atlas of Secrets. That's good. I was a little had a little bit of question in my mind about that reverse color title, but then I thought, hey, it's an Atlas of Secrets, so if the title is slightly hard to read, that won't be too much of a problem. I don't, Keelan, have any Uncle Matt's D&D Studio hats for sale yet, but it's really not hard to do that. We're going to figure out how the merchandise gateway works through Patreon, because we're going to try and center all of this stuff on the Patreon. Atlas of Secrets is great printing challenge from Douglas. Yeah, the digest size on that. I've also got it in a format that can go up on POD for Drive-Thru RPG. So people like digest size books, and so we decided to do it that way. Sell patches too. I don't know. I don't know if we can do patches or not. It's something to look into. I know that you're not the only person who collects patches. James Spahn is a big patch collector as well. So far, I haven't seen Alberta walking around with the denim jacket with the patches and stuff on there. But, what else have we got to cover? One of y'all has to come up with some kind of question, because like I said, I don't have any show notes on this one. So come up with some in-depth question, and then I'll have something to talk about, which is also why I'm saying a lot, because I'm stopping and thinking. Yeah, so Alberta, denim jacket, lots of patches, all D&D patches on there. Next project. Okay, well, what I started working up a couple of days ago was a city adventure heist kind of thing. Not because I really used to like the old Thieves Guild modules, and I don't remember the names of any of them, but they were great. It was all stuff that you did. Your party was all thieves, pretty much. And so for this heist, what I was thinking of was that you've got and the difficulty here is that we're talking about something that is about 8 digest-sized pages. And Doug, feel free also to vote against digest size if you want to. But the thing is that a lot of the Swords and Wizardry stuff is going to start being digest sized. So where was I? Okay, so I'm looking at something that's about 8 digest size pages. No, you didn't miss it, Doug. I'll run over what the plan is again. Did I say Chuck? Doug, I meant Chuck. So this with that limitation on the space, I wanted to narrow down the city adventure as much as I could. So basically, we're just talking about one little street that is the connector between 2 big streets, and there is a not a caravan, but there's a delivery coming from the docks to a merchant, and they don't know what path they're going to take, except this place is close enough to the merchants that they're almost certain to come by this area. So it's basically setting up an ambush in a city for a shipment of stuff that's going, but the goal is to, you have to be able to get away without people recognizing you. And so just sort of setting up a small little ambush type of scenario. So that is what I'm working on right now. I'll also be working on finishing up Ream, Grand Duchy of Ream. I turned in the manuscript to Edwin, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of questions and rewrites and things like that are going to start coming at me. Okay. All right. So the next printing of Swords and Wizardry. There's not really a follow-up yet, but the idea is going to be that we're going to do, again, digest-sized books, probably 4 of them, looking at the way that it splits up and the size that you can do on those. If we're saddle stitching it, we're thinking about going just really, a retro thing, a very simple box with something that's reminiscent, of the old style stuff. Saddle stitched books, which I like because they don't close up the way that perfect bound books do. I really only like hardbacks and saddle stitching, much more than soft cover perfect bound. So there'll be the 4 books in there. That'll probably leave a little bit of space in the box for throwing in dice or modules or things like that. And then the product line, the specific Swords and Wizardry product line, is going to be short modules, about 8 pages long, being the target. And then maybe 4 times a year, kind of a journal that acts as a supplement. But I don't want to say supplement because these are, Gary's rules, Gary's game design. So in the supplements, we'll have, some of my variants that we use. We'll put in monsters, new magic items, spells. If anybody's got articles or something like that, I'm not averse to having it look like more like a periodical than like rules supplements. And so that mix of modules and journals is what we're looking at as the follow-on products, because you've got the Lost Lands. Lost Lands works for Swords and Wizardry just fine, but I think that Swords and Wizardry naturally fits into a somewhat more gonzo swords and sorcery setting, and so we're going to write toward that more than the Lost Lands. I mean, we're gonna use Jordiba more as the model for the world that the stuff is going to be happening in. So, all right. So Keelan says, so I'm converting a large group of players from my own age range into more old school style games and playstyles, Swords and Wizardry and MCC. A key trait of older playstyles is being quite unforgiving to stupid actions. What are some ways to teach or smooth the transition? Also, I adore digest-sized booklets. Excellent. Okay, one vote for digest-sized books. Okay. Transitioning players who are used to a more numbers-based rule system there is not a single formula for doing it, because you have different people who play for different reasons and have different views of what it is that they're playing for. And there are going to be some players who truly will be resistant to the idea simply because they are the type of player who likes to have a more complex game. And so that there may be some people who simply either don't get it or get it and then don't like it. That being fine. There are a few ways for easing people into the transition. One of them, which doesn't work beforehand but works well after the first session, is a debriefing, where you tell them, hey, if you had done this, then this wouldn't have happened. And that sort of thing is a really good way of letting the players know what your expectations are in terms of how they're going to interact with the game. Another one, the most common thing that I say to people when they're doing this is that that you haven't got someone yet when you pose a situation and they look down at their character sheet instead of looking up at you, because they're looking for the solution on the character sheet. And maybe that's the equipment section, in which case that's fine. But you want to you got to get people into this idea that the solution isn't on the character sheet, the solution's in your brain. And so another one of them, and I think maybe this is the most powerful to actually use, is to actually say something like, what is it that you would do? And so if they're saying, well, what do I roll? Just saying, no, what is it that you would do? Where are you looking? What are you doing? That seems to be the best way to tell people what it is that this style of play expects from people. The whole, what would you do? So we got the largest problem that I'm encountering is anime style actions such as jumping off arrows and silly things like that. Saying you can try, describe your action is just making players mad. Okay, so the anime style actions, that is less of an issue with the game and more of an issue with the style of fiction, I think, that people have grown up with. And so when you were growing up in the kids on bikes era of the late 70s and the 80s, what we were growing up on was fairly realistic fantasy, at least in terms of sword fighting and things like that. Not everybody was magic, and um, the anime style of fiction tends to have more people with magical or super type powers than the kind of fiction that we that my generation, the kids on bikes generation, grew up with. So how to get people to do that? Geez. I mean, I think, it may be something along the lines of saying, okay, what's going on in this game is that it's more of a human scale. It's actually what people can do, except for the spell casting and so on and so forth. So jumping off arrows is just not going to work. So you can give it a shot, but most likely you're going to get an arrow through you, and the likelihood of you being able to jump off an arrow is basically zero. So I mean, I'm not sure. That's a tougher question than I've run into in the past about how to do it. Let me know um, what works, because I'm sure that you'll be able to make it work. But that I'm interested to hear how you do that. Um, okay, so making mad from things not working the way they would expect, making them mad from things not working the way they would expect. Yeah, I mean, although you can certainly tell them that, look, things are going to work the way you expect. It's just not going to be, super powered. It's going to work just exactly as well as you would do at jumping off of an arrow. Um, maybe that's it. The it probably doesn't work referring people to any sort of fiction just because homework assignments suck. Yeah, I don't know. Um, right. See, you read pulp literature. Um, Yeah, hopefully the human scale of things. It's there are just over the years there do seem to be a few buzzwords that work, and of course most things are communicated by buzzwords. That's what people latch onto, and so the human scale. What would you do? Solution is not going to be on the character sheet; it's in your mind. Little things like that seem to work best when you can pick up what they're going to be. Chuck points out Appendix N. And uh, Appendix N. Okay, so you're talking about for your world specifically. What what Appendix N means, if anyone's not familiar with it, is talking about Appendix N to the first edition Dungeon Master's Guide, which is a reading list. And so, and it is a great reading list. And in fact, the first edition Dungeon Master's Guide is still probably bar none the best resource for a dungeon master, because even though some of it's out of date, there are phenomenal tables in there. Lots of talking about how things fit together in a fantasy world. It's also, it's kind of like diving for treasure because it's one of the worst organized books in existence. So any page you open it to, it's going to be something new that you wouldn't have expected to be there. So yeah, there's definitely the idea of a reading list. It's just that I've found that depending on how much free time people have. I mean, in college, I might have gone and read a book that somebody suggested in that sort of appendix. But I think in general, giving players any kind of homework is going to, instantly lead to some sort of resistance on that. Any other suggestions for Keelan? It is going to be fun when we can do this on Discord and actually get real-time comments coming in from you guys. because anytime I have to ask a question, I know it's going to be at least 20 seconds before I get an answer, because there's a 20-second time lag delay. I'm actually 20 seconds in your future, and sometime I'll get a newspaper and read stock market tips or something like that. And then if you're quick enough, in 20 seconds, maybe profit from that. So I'm looking at the crap that I've got on my desk to see whether there's anything on here that's worth talking about. Here's the schedule for what we're doing here. Oh shit, yeah, by Tuesday I have to finish the sales text for the Duchy of Rheims Kickstarter. Got Monster Books. There's my note that I took earlier on. Okay, Doug. Disorganized play system is going to go into operation at GaryCon. So Alberta says Legolas jumping up rocks does look great. Alberta, I think that's because of Orlando Bloom, not because of Legolas, right? That's Orlando Bloom, not Legolas that you're watching. But yeah, sliding down the trunk of the elephant I thought was a little bit much, even in Lord of the Rings. What else have we got? I'm started running out of stuff to update you guys on. Like I said, Atlas of Secrets has already gone out. Oh, okay. So for next month, I am going to do the City Encounters book. And so I guess, given the fact that I've done something concrete this month and I'm doing something concrete next month, maybe it's time I'll try and drum up some more patrons to join the group as well. Widen the circle a little bit. And you guys can obviously help out with that, just by throwing the link out here and there. And I'll go ahead and do that. So what else have we got? I think that's it. See, if we had a Discord is a good thing for, normally I hate it because it's like you say something and it disappears, if you're in the chat room. But it's got a voice link now where you can basically get as many people together on a phone call as you can. And it would be really cool to say, okay, we're done with this. Now let's go adjourn, to the Discord channel, and then people could head over to the Discord channel. Douglas has something that he wants to talk to me about very Jordiba soon. So nobody on the chat room is going to get to hear what it is, because it's a deep, dark secret that Doug is going to hold on to, or that is too long to try and type into a chat room, which I think is probably more of the issue there. But we've also sort of got the issue of, we're opening up the license for people to write stuff about Jordiba. And there's also the question of, do we want to? Certainly we'll have this forum up pretty soon once John Barnhouse has a chance to focus on it. And that will be something where people can put short, completely unedited module type stuff in there, if they're not wanting to put it up for sale. But there probably will be some people who want to put stuff for sale as well. And the question of, what kind of publisher support we can get for that. And so that's a question too. Wonky says that he had a dream during North Texas where he was playing one of my games, but the chairs were made of fancily carved soap, and I got mad at you for biting a chunk out of it. Sorry about that. You bite soap, Keelan? Or this was just because it was a dream. You thought eating soap was a good thing to do. I don't know. What else? Yeah, I didn't stand on a chair as much this convention. I've got to have a whiteboard to stand on chairs. And they had my whole whiteboard situation was screwed up this last convention. All right. Anything else? I got to give you all 20 seconds plus typing time. But if anybody has any more questions, otherwise we'll just go ahead and end it here. And then hopefully next Patron live stream, I'll be able to say, okay, we're done with me just talking out into space. Let's go over to the Discord channel and we can talk back and forth with everybody, able to hear everybody else. So I'm assuming I'm not seeing anything else in the chat room. So for now, everybody, goodbye. And we'll certainly talk by next Patron live stream. But for now, You imagine the hell out of it, and I'll go ahead and end it there. Take care, everyone.